When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
Hello, and join us for this week's wrap, where we discuss a very positive weekend in Europe. The Celtic Challenge has returned, some URC predictions, and what's going on at the Ospreys. Hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Wrap. Unfortunately, for those of you who enjoyed Tinfoil Tony last week, I am back. I am joined by Hattie, Nick, and Dan. Hattie was getting far too big for boots in the group chat, so I've had to come and rein him back in.
What can I say? What can I say? I was on it. You were not, Harley. What can I say?
No, absolutely not. How is everyone this weekend?
I'm pretty good, actually. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I said I'm still vaguely hazy after a staff Christmas do, but I was cheered up by the results at Cap and actually at Rodney Parade for that matter.
Oh, was there a game on? I didn't notice, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean I know Abbotsbury got postponed, but there was a little bit of action in Gwent. Maybe we'll get onto that later.
Don't get me started on that. If you want some conspiracy theories, come on now.
I'm sure Tony's Tinfoil Corner will be a spin-off coming in a future season.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll start off with Nick and the news desk. Some slightly big news coming out today.
It's been very, very quiet. Actually, I've actually had a hell of a job keeping up, really, and I don't suppose there's anywhere else we can start with the news after a bit of a quiet period for my team, the Ospreys. Today it was confirmed that Jack Morgan, Wales captain, will be leaving a club at the end of the 25-26 season to join Gloucester. Sorry, I should say Osprey captain. He wasn't. Dewi Lake, who was Wales captain in the last series after Jack got injured, but he's going as well. So yeah, huge loss for the Ospreys. Probably as much a loss for Wales as well, as two of their premier players are now choosing to move on. And I think that means the last three recent captains of Wales now will be playing their club rugby in England next season. In better news, the Ospreys today announced that Morgan Morse, 20, has signed a new deal. And despite being so young, he's made 32 appearances for the Ospreys and, of course, made his debut against New Zealand for Wales. A product of the Ospreys Pathway and friends of the Ospreys Erie podcast, Cwmtoch Rugby Football Club. And it was also announced that today that Harry Deves, another back rower, has also committed to a new deal. Deves, a product of Pontyclun, has already made 53 appearances for the Ospreys and also made his international debut this autumn against New Zealand. So I don't know what you guys, what your thoughts are on what has been a very, very busy day for Welsh and Osprey news.
Well, I kind of saw it as it's not great news, and it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Really, it's the it's the sort of era that we're living in. The era of uncertainty has thrown these types of moves our way. They're not going to be the the first. Well, they are the first, but they're not going to be the last. I wouldn't have thought over the next sort of 6 months, or until the uncertainties put to bed by the union in terms of what teams are going to be where. But I also flipped it and looked at it from a rugby, not just a rugby perspective, but a wider squad perspective. We know that with the funding in Wales, the money's tight, and therefore the squad sizes are tight. So if you are building a squad for next season, whilst losing two of your Premier players is not ideal, the reality is, I suppose, is that especially in the last 12 months in terms of Jack Morgan, the Ospreys have probably not had much output from him, more from Dewi. But they lose them at least for international duty, British Lion duty, injuries picked up on international duty, and so on and so forth as well. And there's an opportunity to save probably somewhere in the region of about 700k's worth of wages, I would have thought, and potentially invest that into, well, maybe 4 players, if it's done smartly. So it's not good news, but it's also not the worst news in the world. I think, the announcement that Morse and Deves are staying shows that there's depth in that number 7 jersey, or potential depth. All right, Morse can play across the back row, I know, but there is some depth there. And let's not forget you got some other good hookers at the club as well that you manage without Dewi when he's not present. So whilst look, if you're going to pick a team for the European Cup final tomorrow, those two would be in it starting, no doubt about it. Arguably your 2 best players. But irrespective of all the political element of it, there may be some silver lining in terms of being able to reinvest that cash should the Ospreys still be with us in whatever guise next season. I don't know what you think about that, Nick.
Yeah, I'm with you now. I'm always sort of, perhaps I'm naive, perhaps I'm just a positive person. I don't know. And there's been a lot of noise, and I understand all that noise, but that's been my take. Yeah, there's going to free up some funding, hopefully. If we are still around, there are positions that we need to bring some people in for next season. And if it allows that to happen, I think the biggest worry for me now is Dan Edwards. And if the 25 cap rule stays, I think he'll stay. If it doesn't, I think he'll go. And that would be a huge, huge loss as a young, promising current holder of the outside half position for Wales. That would be awful as well. So, yeah, it's watch this space really.
Did they say how long the deals were for Daves and Morse? Sorry.
They don't. And I think in the current situation, like I think Dewi signed a contract last year. What became evident to me, and we've discussed in the Posititvity WhatsApp group, is that it was obviously only 12 months, and that was probably just to allow him to get to the 25 caps, which he's now got. And when we brought Evan Daniel in, who's a similar sort of type player, strong carrier, big man, I think the writing was on the wall at that point. And provided Dewi stayed fit, as he did for the Autumn Internationals, I think he started every game, but certainly. So therefore, he's gone past the 25 cap rule. I think at that point, I thought in my heart of hearts knew he was going.
I think it's difficult, and I think I said to you earlier, Nick, that it's yes, I understand the WRU getting flack for this because at the end of the day, the uncertainty wouldn't have come if we weren't in the situation that we're in. But I think it's fair to also criticise Ospreys management for having a situation where so many players are out of contract all at the same time, because it's just poor management.
Sorry, Hattie, I'm just going to double down. I know I stuck in the WhatsApp group earlier on fishing a little bit, wouldn't I, Nick? In jest, but I think Hattie's right here. I'd be interested in your opinion on the way that things have been run, because, and rightly so, you mentioned to me about Mr. Buttress last week and results and people in glass houses throwing stones, etc. And that's right, but from a Ospreys perspective, the St. Helens stuff's been delayed. Players' contract stuff hasn't been dealt with properly. Your season ticket stuff came out late this year. he seems to be on the beer all the time. Does Mr. Bradley is always posting a picture of a beer somewhere. The PRA wasn't signed. All of these little bits and pieces that are adding up off the field. It's almost like a death by 1,000 cuts down at the Ospreys.
I partly agree with that. I don't fully agree with that. The bit I do agree is not signing the PRA. I think that was, for whatever reason, a decision that I personally wouldn't have supported. After that, it sort of just played out as obviously the Scarlets didn't sign it either. It's for whatever reason they didn't sign it. I think all along, and I think go back to that meeting they held in the Apache Lounge, whenever that was, September. He, like many people, were supportive of three teams. And I think this is what, forever we've said on the wrap and so on, the majority of people on the consultation, 7,000 people who did it in the privacy without the pressure of Twitter and so on, wanted three teams. But of course, none of them wanted their team to go. And so we're all in that boat, aren't we? We've now found out that there is going to be a team in the capital city, and there's going to be a team in the east of Wales. And, we've read into that what probably that means. So we're in a difficult position now, and only time will tell if that was a wise decision. The jury's out for me. The jury's out about the leadership of the Ospreys. What I would say is, if you've worked in an organisation at a certain level, and you've had perhaps robust conversations with management about or in this case owners, about what they're planning to do, and at the end of the day, they're your employers. It's very difficult for an employee, which is what he is, to take a different viewpoint unless they're prepared to resign on principle. And in fairness, not many people do that. So it is what it is. Whether we've taken the correct route, whether we've paid the best hand by keeping fairly quiet and reserved, that only time will tell, and that's a judgment call.
Speaking from the weird situation that is with Cardiff at the moment, I'd like to actually be in a position where we could say whether or not our sort of owners or anything else are speaking out. But the problem is our sales seems to be getting kicked down the can. We haven't really heard much from our so-called independent chair, one way or the other, about how these things are, who is a WRU employee, and the intermittent CEO, who is a WRU employee. And it's, I'd quite like to be in a position where I could tell off the CEO, saying, well, get off the fence or whatever, or show his opinion, because we don't really know who it is. I think we've still officially only got two board members, because that's the legal requirement for us to stay as a company. But I also, I agree with Hattie and Dan, but I can also see why some Ospreys fans will feel like they're being scapegoated a bit with this, because it's very easy to say, oh, well, they didn't say Y11. Well, that's because WRU didn't give them the assurances they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the thing with the St. Helens going messing up down the road. Well, because of the uncertainty from the WRU with funding. So we didn't know if we could secure the money we needed to sign that off. And then that knocked onto your season ticket sales. I do see as well, though, how the optics look bad. Like, I know you can spin a silver light on, getting two very big players off the wage bit who don't necessarily play a huge lot of games. But optics-wise, it looks bad when your big players, people who are marking these are in theory, these are people who want to go buy season tickets to go and see inspire your kids. I know, Dan, you've spoken enough in the past how we don't make enough of we don't use the marketability of individuals enough. But
well, if you're Richard Collier keyword, then by his theory now, the Ospreys are going to lose a load of fans, because all the Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake fan club are going to become season ticket holders at Kingsholm, which is just madness, isn't it? But
I'll be interested to find out how many of them already are.
Well, yeah.
By the sound of it, because considering with a large proportion of it, large proportion of the Ospreys fan base seems to be.
One of the important things for me that I've realised, especially today and over the weekend with everything that's gone on, and the Dragons actually winning a game and so on and so forth, that there's so much nonsense on Twitter and social media in general that when everyone is throwing stones at everyone else, I think every club or region needs to realise we're actually all in a glass house in some description, whether it's on field, off field, history. Someone's gone bust, someone hasn't gone bust. No one team is a bastion of light and, professionalism over the last 25 or 22 years of regional rugby. Everyone's got, the skeletons in the closet at every region. So, before people start throwing mud everywhere and we shouldn't be cutting this team, ultimately one team's going. We don't know who that is. Only the union are going to work that out. We don't want anyone to go. We are hell bent on that. You're only going to poke the fire and load the WRU gun if we just carry on infighting with one another, because no one's perfect.
Good point.
Anything else on the news desk, Nick?
Yeah, that's only the first half. Okay, going back to some actually rugby news. Ospreys, in what seems like an age ago, but only last week, confirmed that hooker Ethan Lewis has rejoined Cardiff Rugby on a short-term loan. The former Cardiff Blues player, because it was Cardiff Blues when he played for them, joined Saracens in 2021 before joining the Ospreys in 2023. But on a serious note, I think it's a good move all round, Harley. He'll get a bit more game time. He's dropped down the pecking order at the Ospreys, and you've got some injury concerns at hooker.
Yeah, I think he's in as an injury. I think one of the guys out on Cardiff Central outed him as a signing before it got announced because they saw him in the warm up.
Oh right. Okay.
Or was it? He was in like a picture of him traveling to Stard. That's how we found, like, we've sort of got the news of that one. Yeah, I mean, so Belcher's out for an indeterminate number of time. We were running the squad with only 3 hookers anyway.
Yeah.
And that lad we got from Bath was only for literally the one game, whilst Evan Lloyd was unavailable. So it makes sense having it. He's someone who knows the club quite well. I quite often seeing him around Cardiff anyway.
Right.
I think he occasionally uses Robert Snowden Taylor's gym, which is not far from where I work. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of fond memories of him in the blue and black. I mean, you got one of our young exciting prospects in Evan Daniels. We got one of our old ones back.
Yeah, I think it's a good move all round. Okay, go back to the rugby union, Welsh Rugby Union, and it has been confirmed the CEO, Abby Tini, will return to take up a full-time leadership role in January. Of course, she's had cancer treatment, and that seems to have gone well and so has the phased return. So obviously, we wish her well in that respect. Richard Collier-Keywood, much mentioned, will now return to his responsibilities as chair and take a less an active role in the day-to-day running. They've also announced the appointment of Thomas Grace as a new chief commercial officer, and he takes his post from January. He'll join obviously the senior leadership team, the executive leadership team, and follows on the decision by Leighton Davis, who confirmed his retirement as the full-time executive role, and I guess the person has got the day-to-day running of finances, and I believe he is a native of Cardiff as well. Going on to the Dragons, they've announced the signing of a 27-year-old hooker, George Roberts, from Doncaster Knights. He's played over 100 times, I think, for them. He's a Wrexham-born lad, and has apparently been playing well in the English Championship. So he's not a youngster. He's got to come in and bring with a bit of experience, a bit of nous, and I would have thought that is again adding some strength where there seems to be some injury concerns down at hooker at the Dragons.
Yeah, I think it was well documented, wasn't it, that we had to go with Sam Scarf last week out in Perpignan. We've been playing SRC. We know that Jumbo's been out, Elliot D's been out, Brody Coughlin's been out. So bolstering that area is good for us. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the lad playing in the English Championship, but from what's been said by Ian McGeegan, who's the director of rugby up at Doncaster, he's a tough old cookie, physical lad, and is keen to, proud Welshman, and is keen to get on his journey towards a potential Welsh cap. So if he's got a fairly high ceiling, then it could be a decent little pickup for us. And coming from the Championship, and English rugby is probably not going to lack a level of physicality. So, and that's the sort of thing we need. So, yeah, fingers crossed it works out for him.
Yeah, good. And that is the first part of the news finished.
Excellent stuff. So we'll move on. There's a reason, we'll explain the reason why we sort of split the news up a little bit later on. That'll become clear. So we're going to move on to the action from the Challenge and Champions Cup. So we'll start off with you, Nick. So you went on a lovely little trip to France. Well, not you personally, for one. I believe you said you had to watch this one from home, but you went and faced Montauban and frankly bullied them, man. I think you should all be ashamed of yourself bullying poor little Montauban. You know, they're only a Pro Leader side coming up to experience top 14.
Well, what can I say? You three people wouldn't know. Winning in France is not for everyone. It's been a long time since any have done that, but we do it on a quite irregular basis. Yeah, it was a good performance. And before we talk about the game, I was very pleased to see some of our long-term injury players back on the field. Owen Watkin looked a bit rusty. Morgan Morris was fine. And I thought Ryan Compey, despite his yellow card, was very good. Yeah, the pack went really well for 70 minutes. And I think probably Cocker-Singer and Boshoff are probably our first choice centres now. So, which you wouldn't have thought you'd be saying that at the beginning of the season. So it's up to Kieran Williams, when he's fit, and Owen Watkin to respond to that challenge. We started really strongly, and I thought Luke Davis played well. He controlled the game a bit like a typical French scrum half. We scored 3 really good tries in the first 40 minutes. Montbaton had their moments, and they were dangerous at times too. They just got a try before half time. I think it was 19-9 at half time. Fafita, a Scala player, did what he does best. He must have the best record for line-out steals anywhere in the world.
He's incredible.
And overall, though, while he did that a couple of times, overall our first phase was secure and gave us a good platform. Second half, first 15 minutes or so was a bit scrappy. And then Montbaton definitely came back into the game, started to dominate possession. They made some line breaks, but they weren't very efficient. Conversely, the Ospreys were. And when we had a chance, we scored 2 good tries. I thought the final one from Kieran Hardy was a great team try. I thought the starting front row went very well. And it wasn't, sort of some of our lesser players. Reece Henry looked very good and is starting to get back into form. And a big shout out to Cam Jones, who I've had some issues with in the sense that he's a big lad, huge lad, but he started to put that into practice in the scrum as well. He's still only 24, and I think his contract's up this summer. And wherever the Ospreys are, I think he's certainly deserving of a new contract. You could see the difference a bit when our replacement props came on, but Kieran Hyde is still only 21, and he'll be better for the experience. Lewis Lloyd is an absolute tackling machine. And Moriarty had a good game at 6, where I think he's probably better suited. And if he wants to get back into the international reckoning, I think he's got more chance of doing that as a 6 than an 8. But, who's going to complain about getting a bonus point win on the road in France? And with that bonus point win, 10 points out of 2 games, that, it's virtually certain now we're in the final 16, because Montbaton and Zebra have got to play each other, and they both lost. Well, in Montbaton's case, lost 2 games, so it's very unlikely we're not going to finish in the top 4. I think in the conference, whatever you call them, group. Obviously, then it's the question whether we can go ahead and get some points. If we can get 1 or 2 points in the next 2 games, maybe we should have a home game in the next 16. But I see no reason why we couldn't go and win the next 2 games. But I know a lot of people, I'm sure we'll talk about a new recruit for the Scarlets who's been very, very good in the back row, a New Zealander. But I want to give a shout out to Gwilym Evans. And he looks a tremendous find at open side. And I think it's a good message to be sending out there. He's come through the pathway at Aberavon. So it is starting to show that Super Rugby Company is starting to be a platform for people to show their wares and maybe to be picked up by a professional club as well. And of course, we've got some good back rowers in the English Championship too. So yeah, as I said last week, I think we're starting to see the true Ospreys with players back. We've got the next block of games. Obviously, what we need to now do is, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, is to put that into in practice in our URC games. We do need to shore up our scrum in the final quarter of games, especially when we come to those URC games and the derbies and so on. But I think, we've got a squad now which can do that, but time will tell.
That's it. Anyone want to jump in there?
I think any win out in France is a good win. The Montauban stories are a really interesting one. Like we said at the tail end of last week's pod, I think they finished 6th in Pro D2 and managed to get themselves promoted via the playoff that they have. So, yeah, real interesting trip. I hope the red wine and the pastries were good out there for all the travelling Ospreys fans. And yeah, good on them. Top win. They've done the business in Europe so far.
I think all the players are out there as well. I think they'd obviously planned a bit of a social, because I thought all the ones who weren't selected, Sampari and so on, would have had a weekend at home. Tom Bota was there. So I think they probably had a good night in Montauban as well.
Hey, that's what it's all about, isn't it? And I did see some of the stuff online via the Osprey socials and supporters socials, etc. It looked like a cracking little town, fair play. So hopefully everyone had and the wine and the beer would have tasted that much sweeter with 5 points in your back pocket on the way home. So I bet you were gutted you didn't go, Nick. You've run out of all your holiday leave.
I've run no more holiday leave, unfortunately.
Right, so we'll jump on. We'll stay in France. Slightly less unfortunate tale, I guess, but still actually somewhat positive, if whether regardless of Hattie says not. So Scarlets, well, what says he's changed Scarlets actually. I wouldn't say it was their best side came up and played. I thought not too bad against the current champions.
Against one of the best club sides in the world, just casually.
No doubt
I don't think it was our best side. There was some rotation. I'd probably say like our centre partnership is probably like top choice in my opinion. We had the likes of Fletcher Anderson, who has been an absolute, I don't even know how many games he's played at this point. What, 3? And he's just like taken over. It's amazing. But yeah, there was a fair amount of rotation. I think I kind of assume there would be, because there was absolutely no chance in hell we would win this game. But it ended up being a lot closer than I thought. I know, if you look at the scoreline, 50-21, it's not that close, but 64 minutes, it was 36-21. So really, it was the last quarter kind of did us in. Just to touch on Fletcher Anderson, 16 carries, 2 line breaks, 12 tackles, 2 tries. Like, it's not necessarily that he's carrying the most or making the most line breaks or making the most tackles, but he's up there in the top 5 for each category, and he's very consistent across the board with what he does. And he manages to do the kind of like nuts and bolts stuff of making those, those big tackles and making the carries, but also line breaks, tries, etc. He's just got something that we were missing. He's very, very physical. It's really, really nice to see him play. So I'm really, really enjoying having him signed up. I'm fascinated to find out whether or not he's Wales qualified, because I don't think we're kind of going to get project players in the way we used to now, with it being 5 years instead of 3. So I think it would be really strange to me if a New Zealander came over to play for the Scarlets for no apparent reason. But yeah, that just love seeing him play. I would say the thing that I do find really interesting about the game is that, again, the wheels fell off in the final quarter, which is exactly what happened when we played against Bristol. It pretty much lines up with our change in fly half, but our fly halves were the other way around. So Costello started against Bristol. He came off the bench against Bordeaux. It seems to be when we have that change, things start to just go wrong. We just don't seem to be an 80-minute team. We just can't play up to that level for 80 minutes yet. The other thing that is concerning, which doesn't necessarily line up because we did have the majority of possession in the last quarter, is we missed 27 tackles. So our tackle completion rate was 80%. And as Dan will tell us all, if you're missing 1 in 5 tackles, you are not winning a match. I don't know if you have anything to say on that tackle stat, Dan.
It's going to be, it's exactly as I said, it's going to be hard to win a match. But
Yeah.
what I thought was once they got in behind, I watched the first sort of 50, 60 minutes of it, and once they got in behind, they were impossible to stop. I thought front line D was actually pretty solid. They put people down, but as soon as there was a line break, they were in behind. It was offloads, it was pick and goes around the corner, and they're just a different animal. You know, you look at the sort of quality. I know Toulouse lost on the weekend up in a windy Glasgow, but you look at some of the players, the depth chart in the squad for both teams. You look at the stadium out there, absolutely rammed. Was it 32, 35,000 people every week? It's just night and day in it. The sort of thing that we're doing at the minute over here. So I got to be honest. I thought there was the only thing I was disappointed with from a Scots perspective, they didn't manage to get that 4th try. If they'd have come away with a bonus point, it would have been even better. But I thought they went out on their shields. I got to be honest. There was no. They didn't go out with a whimper, did they? I know they got blown away a bit in the last half, but they played their part in a fantastic game, took the lead, scored the first try, and I thought, oh, here we go. But they just, every time Bordeaux got in behind, there was just a little bit too much firepower in there. Peno always beat the first tackle. You know, BLBRE's just a different level altogether. But yeah, good showing on the whole, I thought.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Bordeaux, they thrive on chaos. And so if they can play a disorganized game, and if they can, you know, break up the other team even just the tiniest bit, that's when they're completely lethal. I think there was a lot of chatter at the weekend of, you know, oh, why, you know, if Jalibert can play like that, because he did have an incredible game, you know, why is he necessarily not starting? It's because he plays that complete chaos game, which works for some clubs and doesn't necessarily work at international level. But yeah, he had an absolutely phenomenal game, and yeah, we just could not control him when he went off it. And then when you're going up against the 2 starting French wingers, that's going to be bloody hard to control, isn't it? So yeah, they just thrived on the chaos. And although I do agree with you, front line defense great. As soon as there was that little break in play, that little mistake, we were done for.
Yeah, valiant effort, and which is why I thought, you know, you can't be too down on the boys from down west, because they did have a good go. Fletcher Anderson is without a doubt for me. I know Nick's rightly to say about Gwilym down at the Ospreys, but the transfer of the season for me so far, because he's done so well in his in his first couple of outings. I don't know, maybe it's just that new player bounce. I don't know. And
I think you're all completely wrong. Signing the season has been Havan Sebastian. And
You're
I never thought I'd say this. I never thought I'd say it, but I think it's him.
No, it's not. Wait until the end.
The Cardiff scrum is going very well
with Sam Wainwright.
Actually, to be fair, we'll go on to him in a bit. But yeah. Does anyone have anything else they want to say about the Scarlets?
Valiant effort. C+, B performance.
I don't think any of the other regions would have done any better. It was Bordeaux.
I reckon we'd have got 4. I reckon they'd have let us have a 4th, but that's about it. But we'd have conceded another 30. So
listen to Cardiff now, because they've had a good start of the season, giving it the big one already. God,
yeah,
makes me sick.
I don't know. You've piped up with your one solitary win of the year.
Hang on, you wait until that comes
not just
now,
year,
right?
Calendar year.
Yeah, that's it.
on the 13th, 14th of December.
Everyone get back in their box, right? And we'll have a little discussion about it when it comes around.
On that, I am going to move on to the Cardiff game. We beat Ulster. The problem with Ulster is they picked Vernicock, and Vernicock has never beaten Cardiff. And at this rate, I don't think he ever will. I'll be honest, what I was getting a bit nervous after, we did quite well to get up to a 12-0 lead and then seemed to lose it, and then all of a sudden it all came up again. Um, Biggest bit of great news is Lee Halfpenny played a game of rugby and went off without being injured. So nice one, Hapes. Great for that.
Especially at 36.
That's an achievement.
Especially at 36, this is the thing. I thought there was something really beautiful about Tom Bowen, where the oldest player in the team passed it to the youngest. And actually, Tom Bowen's dad posted on Twitter of a little thing about a photo of Tom Bowen meeting Halfpenny back in 2018.
Yeah, class.
So, I think that made me chuckle. I'm pretty sure I was at that game as well, because I remember being in the corner. My wife was just absolutely staring at Lee Halfpenny when he was doing his kicking, which. Yeah, good game. Dan would be happy. Cardiff only missed 1 in every 10 tackles, so that's better. So we had a 90% completion rate.
Yeah,
I feel like Ulster's tries were a little bit easy. I think that's the thing. I feel like so particularly one which came off an intercept. But it was good to see us pluck the. It was a bit of, we had some nice out wide ones. Some more that scrum right at the end. Who'd have thought that Cardiff would win a game by a dominant scrum? You just wouldn't. So Sam Wainwright is a player I've given a lot of shit over the years, and you know what? You've earned some respect for me on that one, because I know it's a full 8-man. That was a full 8-man show, but it all starts up there. So that was a hell of a nudge, and then Sheedy to get it. So also in a really weird thing is, Lee Halfpenny only had a 50% kicking success, but Callum Sheedy had 100%. Work that one out, people. I'm happy to take questions, because frankly I'm just happy we won and we got some points. I thought we were just gonna try and write off Europe and focus on the derby, especially with the squad we selected.
Just watching Lee Halfpenny makes me nervous. Sorry, Nick. It really does. I just feel like we're going to watch just an old man get destroyed on a rugby pitch. But he played very well, I thought. For, a man that I thought was going to retire about 4 years ago.
I thought the opposite of Samson, Rory Thornton, is actually playing better now his long locks have been shorn. He played well. A bit of a late bloomer for the Swansea born boy.
Yeah, on his 150th cap. No, it was his 100th.
100th.
No, I'm getting confused. Yeah. One of the old Pens players, he was on his 150th on Saturday.
Yeah, but given when you think McNally wasn't starting, both the second rows went well, and I thought that might be an area which maybe other teams could exploit against Cardiff. Obviously, very unfortunate to lose Teddy Williams, and probably for the season. But yeah, the two of them stood up well.
And I think it does help that, I think, for both McNally and Knott, particularly when Knott was at Dragons, they're quite good line-out technicians. I feel like where people thought they could target us actually was probably an area. Although saying that, the line-out was quite messy for both sides. So I think both teams were messing up each other's ball, and the scrums were a bit of an issue all night. I think the refs managed that particularly well.
No, for me, what Cardiff have shown as well, I think, is that even when they go behind, if they stick to their processes, they're confident in their own skin now. And what's been really good, I think, if you're a Cardiff supporter, and I think it's a testament to Matt Sherratt, who's no longer at the club now, but obviously the backroom staff that have stayed put, is that there's been definite improvement over the last 3 seasons, I would say, since he's come in. There's no doubt about that, and they're kind of reaping the rewards now. So yeah, you mentioned Jav and Sebastian and the scrum. They've sort of solidified their front five, if you like, to make them a little bit harder to eke scrum penalties from, or even to win some scrum penalties now. So that's been a good sign. And on the whole, I thought it was another good performance from the capital city region. So good on them. By far the best team in Wales. As much as it pains me it doesn't pain me to say it, really, because we're all kind of in it together this season, I suppose. It would, by far the best, most consistent region. and I think they got a. What do you do if you're Cardiff now? It's touch and go, really. Is a run in Europe a good thing for you? Arguably, it is, because you could have a home quarter final, at home, home knockout, and a home
Yeah.
quarter final. It could, draw some good big crowds and some big teams that drop out the Champions Cup. Sorry, but also you're in prime position to get a home draw, I think, as well in the league. So it'll be interesting balancing act for the management and the coaching staff down at Cardiff over the next 2 or 3 months.
I think it'd be interesting because I think Racing have basically decided they are not bothering with the competition.
Yeah.
But judging by what they did at home, like how the team they sort of fielded out at home the other week, and basically let the kids get hammered out in Ulster. So that's one. So that potentially should be another 5 points, and then you're looking at maybe we are getting into that top one or two in the group, depending on how other results go. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the derbies, because I think if we can nail these derbies plus the Benetton game sort of just in the new year, I think we'll know where we are in that league and roughly how relaxed we can take those more difficult games.
Mm.
Like if we don't get good, the sort of results we're expecting in the derbies, and then we start needing games, needing points from Leinster at home, South Africa, the South Africa away trip, then it's like, do we really want to focus too much on the league? Do we go for that cup run and get the thing? I think it's looking like Van Zijl's idea is going to be a bit of a horses for courses, and I think he's going to go for sort of not throwing out the kids, but you'll see people who normally bench in the URC will start in Europe, and just trying to keep things fresh. Honestly, I mean, it's a bit awkward at the moment because obviously 6-day turnaround now for Scarlets. We've got a week before Dragons, then it's 6-day turnaround again then for the Ospreys. And that could be. There's potential for that. Some three very scrappy, quite what could end up being quite physical games, particularly up on the Brewery Field, which we know is going to be a bit more of a slugfest.
Yeah,
Especially after all the rain we're getting at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And
look, do you want them playing that?
And I think, like we've been saying as well, I think keep everyone fit. I think everyone stands a chance. That's arguably been down the downfall of all four clubs, I would say, over recent weeks. Is the Ospreys had a run of injuries at the start of the season. They start to get some people back now. If you keep people fit, it's a massive plus point. I know it's almost impossible, but if you can, if you can keep people fresh, then that's key. And I think Cardiff stand a great chance of doing well. What would you prefer, Harley? Just on a personal note, would you prefer? Let me give you an example. Would you prefer like a semi-final of the URC or a semi-final of the European Cup?
I mean, if it's a semi-final, no further. I mean, it'd be nice to get the URC because that means we've got Champions Cup rugby next. Like getting to a semi-final in the URC means we're already on Champions Cup rugby.
Mm.
At the same time, silverware is always nice. It's nice having thing. And if we were turning around to Dave Redden saying, "Well, how recent history do you want? We've just won a trophy." Imagine what we could do if you actually funded us enough to compete with the big teams. Yeah,
you haven't answered the question there.
I'd like us to actually make the knockouts in the URC for once.
Okay,
it's something we've never really done. We were supposed to do it in the sort of 1920 season before COVID cancelled it. We were on a good run for that, but then otherwise it's always been like we get to Judgment Day and it's a shootout between us and the Ospreys and we'd fuck it.
Yeah, well,
it'd been us and Scarlet's failing results. So
yeah.
Right, anyway, that's enough. That's enough of the capital region. So we're going to move on to what is the big story for Welsh Rugby over the weekend. Dan, Abertillery were cruelly denied a chance to play. What happened?
Well, there's a rumour going round that the pitch was suitable to play, and we didn't end up playing. But we won't throw accusations around in a public forum like this. So, yeah, we didn't get to play, unfortunately. Rained off. It was called off on Thursday, I believe. It was sort of we were being told that the field wasn't going to be playable. So, yeah, unfortunately, we miss a we miss another week. I think we got 3, maybe 4 fixtures in the league to make up now at the tail end of the season, which is, I don't think anybody wants to be playing in May, do they? It's cricket season then. You should be, fielding down at Fine Leg and drinking in the beer gardens. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Hopefully, we can fit a couple in maybe around the international period, play on a Friday night or something along those lines. But we're back in action. Back in action this Saturday, Mountain Ash at home on Abbott Lady Park. So yeah, hopefully that goes ahead. I gotta be honest, the weather's been absolutely pants, hasn't it? I saw Noah building an ark earlier on. It was wet out in up around my neck of the woods. So yeah, hopefully the rain stays away for a couple of days and we can actually get a bit of rugby on. Because before you know it, Christmas comes then and you haven't played for 4 weeks and it's almost like starting again in January. So yeah, hopefully it comes round. Have you got any other questions about rugby and Gwent?
I don't know. I mean,
Weekend,
how did you occupy yourself if you weren't coaching rugby on the weekend then, Dan?
Well,
You can tell us.
yeah, well, Blackwood under 11s played on the weekend as well, actually. So we went and coached my boys' team, and they had a good win, 5-4 over at Bather. I'm trying to think if there was anything else on. Oh, and I think the Dragons won as well. The Dragons may have snuck a victory on the weekend, Harley. So how do you like those apples down in the capital city?
I mean, it's not, winning more than one game in the calendar year isn't for everyone. But I'm glad,
Hey,
I'm glad Dragons
it's
is
not.
like, and actually, to be fair, it was a well thought, and that was the sort of game that I honestly didn't. I thought you were going to screw up again because you've
Yeah,
seen the Dragons do it so many times before. So it's nice to see them just hold, pushing the lead, hold on.
absolutely. Look, all jokes aside, I think former Dragon teams, especially in the last sort of 2 to 4 seasons, would have folded. Especially, let's not forget, we were 21-6 down at one point. We went in 7-6 at half time. The conditions, weren't great down at Rodney Parade. Windy as normal, just off the riverbank there. So to come back from 21-6 down to win, yes, I repeat, win 23-21, I think is a great result for the boys. Leon didn't bring a bad team over either. It weren't don't get me wrong, it wasn't their front line team, but I didn't think it was a bad team. And yeah, we went out and performed. And the big thing for me is that we didn't give up. It wasn't pretty. There's no doubt there's some issues with our attack. Still, I thought pretty shapeless at times. Lacked penetration, and we ended up scoring from forward power. Really, didn't we? It was all bluster, and the hard work was done up front by the big fellas. So good on them. But we stuck in there right to the very end, and I think on the whole we deserved it as well. There's still, to throw another negative in, goal kicking still a little bit of a problem. We missed two out of the 3 conversions. As a minimum, that would have pushed us further in front. Anyway, we need to sort that out. Although I think Angus is doing better than Tinas has done on that front on the whole. But it was a fantastic game. Angus was top of the carry list as well, actually, with 16 tackles on the weekend, 16 carries, sorry, on the weekend. So he was involved. Clearly, a big part of the Dragons' success on the weekend was Angus O'Brien's captain's performance. So congratulations to him and the rest of the boys. Aaron Wainwright led from the front. His work from the base of the scrum was fantastic. Chipped in with 14 carries, and he was also top of our tackle count with 18. Another admirable performance from Mr. Whiteheads there. What a guy, proper man of Gwent. Thomas Young, another good performance in defence, 17 tackles, closely followed by Ollie Burrows. I thought our defence on Sunday was much better than it has been as well. Seemed to have a bit more bite to it, a bit more snap to it. And just for those that like a stat, we made 140 tackles. We only missed 13. Unlucky for some, but not for the Dragons on the weekend, which meant that we had a 92% tackle completion rate. And in layman's terms, that meant that we were fairly difficult to break down. All right, they scored 3 tries, but one of them was that classy chip and chase on the edge. Sometimes you got to take your hat off the opposition and go well played. Other benefits for me was Mr. Woodman coming off the bench. He's turned into a quality operator this year. Is Ryan Woodman. He gets through his work quietly, carries the ball well, makes his tackles, and he's a good line-out operator as well. So I like the work that Woodman's putting in. Levi Douglas, he's something that the Dragons lacked I would have thought, and lots of clubs in Wales lack as well as that. Just he's just an enforcer. Um, he just goes around the field whacking people, running into them. When he's got the ball, the other side of the ball, he's happy to go around whacking people. Like someone with that sort of mindset, you need in your team. Just big horrible bastard in the second row. I think you need one of those. So I was pleased with his performance. Picked up a bit of a bump. So again, I hope that's not too bad. And the injury curse doesn't strike again. Um, another big plus for me. I say plus, but I suppose honourable mention goes to Burrows and Hunt in the front row. Burrows going 70 odd minutes, and Hunt going the full distance, which is almost unheard of in the pro game. So good on him for that. It goes to show really how important your tight head prop is, which is absolutely massive. And look, we can talk about stats and performances and this, that, and the other. The most important stat for the Dragons on the weekend was the scoreboard. Didn't matter if we won 3-0, 40-0, or in this case 23-21. It was all about getting over the line. We've been close a couple of times this season. The Ospreys draw and the Sharks draw. So it was good to get that monkey off our back and pick up a win. I'd like to see one in the URC. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, based on what we did last season, and what we're doing this year, there's an argument to say that we're already improved on last season's performances. We were unlucky against Leinster not to come away with anything as well, as we've discussed previously. And performances on the whole, I think, from the Dragons have been better. Perpignan was poor. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, we rung a load of changes, and I think I counted last week we had eight or nine that have played in the SRC within the last sort of 6 months or under. So yeah, decent performance from the boys. They hung in there, they battled away, they ground it out, they got that win. And on to the next round. There's no reason why we can't pick up another couple of wins, especially in Europe. I listened to the Dragons Lair boys this morning. They made a good point. Look, we've got a win now. There's no reason why we can't pick something up in Benetton, and why we can't beat Newcastle at home. So, and that might see us then pick up a last 16 round against who knows, like a local English, like a Gloucester or someone like that, maybe dropping out of the other competition, whoever it may be, and give us because we're not in the running for the playoffs in the URC, are we? So, might give us a run in the cup. Who knows? But yeah, on the whole, a win's a win. Monkey off the back. Everyone was cock a hoop about it, and so they should be. Congratulations to all the boys, and let's take it into next week. I don't know what you guys thought.
I think anybody who supports Welsh Rugby is delighted with the Dragons. I know we pull each other's leg on here. I had a bit of a go, at the Dragons last week, but it honestly came from a good place. We want to see the Dragons do well, and I'm not even a Dragons fan, so I really do support the fans who turn up week in, week out, and to finally get some reward is great.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a die-hard of fans. I think there was only 4,500 in on the weekend down at Rodney Parade, which is probably below average for the normal gates. All right, Sunday evening's not great. Weather's been a bit crap. There's normally a lot of kids that would go down as well in and around all the community stuff. And maybe we can touch on the stuff that was said on Scrum 5 later on. We talked through some news bits, etc. But there's a die-hard of fans, especially on the terrace, that have been there through thick and thin. And over the last couple of years, they haven't had much to cheer about. So, good on. I bet that beer in plastic glasses tasted that a little bit sweeter come the end of that game yesterday.
I'm sure it did.
It was just a very fun match to watch, not just because the Dragons winning was just a little bit mind-blowing, just because it's not something you see very often. Sorry, Dan. But it was just like, it was things like the fireworks going off and like the players being a little bit like surprised by it. And yeah, one of the funniest bits for me watching from home was Alex Cuthbert, who I'm assuming is one of the people you want to talk about, Dan, um, was going, oh, it's really great for the Dragons to get a draw, this, that, and the other. And then Dave Rogers was like, it's not a draw. It's not a draw. They're in front. And you have to go, oh no, they're winning. They're winning. They're getting the win. So yeah, it was nice to see that lot
It's
kind
now
of
a
eat their
bad time
words
to
a bit.
point out that Alex Cuthbert co-owns a sport media company.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
now you bring it up, then I'll get my
get your soapbox out.
I'll get a bee out my bonnet. I was a little bit miffed off, if I'm honest, with some of the comments on Scrum 5 Pod. When did it come out? Last Thursday or something along those lines. Go back and have a listen to it after you've listened to us, and let me know what you think. But the first thing that has subsequently been brought to my attention is, BBC is the bastion of impartiality, but Foxy a Scarlet, Sean Hawley an Osprey, and Alex Cuthbert an Osprey and a Cardiff man. We don't often see much representation from the Gwent region on there, apart from when they have Ashton on. They've had Goffey on once or twice, I think, and Richard Parks, but they mention and talk more about Richard's adventurer exploits than they do, and rightly so. What a guy, and they do about the rugby in Gwent. And there's a couple of comments that got my back up. One was, Sean Hawley saying that, I've been around a load of clubs in Gwent, and there's a lot of discourse between the region and the rest of the clubs in Gwent. Well, I coach in Gwent at two different clubs. I'm out at rugby clubs 6 out of 7 days a week as a result of that. I can tell you now, there's no discourse in the region. As a matter of fact, I would say this is the best the Dragons have ever had it in terms of one region. There was more discourse when it first started, and they had the name Newport in the name. I can tell you that much. But now there's much more connection between the Dragons and everyone else. Every Super Rugby Cymru team had a Dragons player in it this weekend, I believe. The Dragons have been out and run open training sessions at 4 or 5 clubs over the summer. Me and my boy been down to 2 games, and you go and see all the mini and junior kids running around on the field at half time. It's full of kids down there. They run birthday parties down there now. They go out and do coaching in the community. They do absolutely loads in the region, and I don't think it's ever been more of a region. The community work is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I got to call that one out. I thought that was absolute nonsense, to be perfectly honest with you. And then the other thing that he brought up was, well, why do you want to go and live in Newport when you can go and live in Paris or London? Well, first of all, what's wrong with Newport, Sean? There's lots of good places to live in Newport. And what about the rest of the regions? Because all the Scarlets players are not living in Llanelli, are they? You go and have a wander around Pontcanna. It's full of people from from Scarlets, and there's plenty of good places and nice places to live in Gwent. It's not just it's not a total shithole everywhere you wander around in Gwent. Trust me, I'm a proud Gwent man. There's lots of good places to live. So I thought there was lots of it that was just real disingenuous from the panel on there, and yeah, got my back up a little bit. Feel free to correct me if you think that I'm wrong.
Well, I think he's from Carmarthen, Port Talbot, and last time I was in Port Talbot, I didn't see it very similar to Paris.
No, well, and that's my point. I'm a Blaenau Gwent boy. This, Blaenau Gwent's got plenty of issues, but I'm proud of where I come from, as I'm sure a lot of the boys that are playing for the Dragons that come from these sorts of working class areas in the Welsh the Gwent valleys. Good on, if you want to go and live somewhere in the countryside or somewhere quote unquote nicer, there's Abergavenny, you've got Monmouth, you've got Caerleon, you've got Pontyr, you've got Usk, you've got all these places you can go and live. It's not just full of old mining towns. So yeah, it got my back up a little bit. So I'm glad the men of Gwent stuck it to them on the weekend, and we've held our end up in Welsh Rugby this weekend, which was which is important to me.
And if you want to comment on what Dan said or anything else you said in this podcast, please leave a little comment under the YouTube on the YouTube box below, or I think Spotify now do comments and reviews. Share your podcast. If you disagree so much with something we said, share it with your friends so they can hear how utterly wrong we are or how right we are. It counts as a view either way to us. Like us on socials, you can message us through all the podcast things there. We can answer questions. Other than that, just going to give you a very quick summary of what's happened in Europe. So we're halfway through the pool stage in Europe, which feels stupid after only 2 games. But in the Big Boy Cup, Scarlets are 4th in their pool on 1 point. Then in Challenge Cup, Ospreys are 2nd in their pool, purely down on points difference. With 10 out of 10 points, the only team ahead of them is their long-standing Challenge Cup rivals at the moment, Montpellier. I believe you're playing each other this year as well, so that's going to be an interesting battle for top spot.
Last 4th match.
That's got potential to be a tasty one. Dragons and Cardiff are both on 4 and 5 points each. Actually, having a look at those, neither of us are out, but I think these games are going to be tough, particularly if you want to go for home. So with Cardiff, the 2 teams Cardiff got to play are basically above them, so that's going to be interesting. Actually, no, it's Exeter who going a lot better than I thought they were. And then I said Racing aren't really bothered, but it's still possible. No, all teams are still in it. I think Scart's most likely going to be looking at a dropping down into the Challenge Cup and having a run there more than making it, which might actually be the better option for them. Actually, I don't know, Hattie. What would you think? Would you rather just go out completely, drop down to Challenge Cup, or try and eke something in round 16?
I would much rather just focus on the league and just ignore Europe, because that's the league is the bread and butter, and at the minute we're not doing too hot. So I'd much rather focus on that than deal with Europe.
Fair enough. Yeah. If people are happy, I'm going to move on to the next thing. No last things about Europe? No. Excellent. Right. Personally, I've spent far too much time talking about men's rugby, so now I want to talk about some women's rugby. So, Patty, Celtic Challenge is back. It snuck up on me. I almost forgot about it.
It's my favourite time of year. So I guess we're just going to have a little crash course. So both of the Celtic Challenge squads were released this week. So just highlights from Brython Thunder. We've got Gwen Crabb, who I know we talked about last week. She has been named as captain, which is very, very exciting. I think she just brings a lot of experience. I think it'd be really, really good to see her grow as a leader, which is not something she's really got to do in name. It's something that she's been in leadership groups, but not necessarily been named as captain. So that's very exciting. Fionn Lewis and Meg Webb are in the squad as well. Fionn Lewis, there was a bit of drama last year where she left Wales camp and her contract wasn't renewed. So she's been gallivanting around the world, but she's returning to the squad. She's also a former Wales Rugby League captain as well, so another bit of experience in captaincy there. And Meg Webb, who left Bristol last year to focus on her nurse training, she is in the squad as well. And then we've also got Bramwell Metcalfe, who is the either under 20s or under 18s captain for Wales. I can't remember which. And the younger sister of Nell Metcalfe is in the squad. And then Hannah Marshall, who has been away with GB Sevens, is back as well. There's also the likes of Amelia Tutt, who's capped by Wales, Molly Wilkinson. We've got Seren Singleton and Sav Picton-Powell, who are very, very big names in there. We did lose Hing on the wing, who signed to Exeter this summer. So we won't see her. But overall, it's a very, very, very strong backline with a more reasonable forward pack. Although last year our forward pack was possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen. So, yeah. And then the coach is the same. So it'll be Ashley Beck, who's former Worcester Warriors, and he is the attack/backs coach for Wales under 20s as well. Going across to Gwalia, they retain Maisie Nalau, which was a little bit of up in the air about whether or not they would. I'm assuming with Maisie, they'll probably have to release her back to Bears a little bit, but it'll still get some good sort of other players to get some game time as well, just because she did kind of dominate and she was playing like 80 minutes every game last year. Bryony King returns as captain, and then Tilly Vukic, who was capped in the World Cup, comes in as well. So her and Lau could play second row together. I think that is going to be really, really great to see because they are definitely the future of the Wales second row. So getting them to play together at a club level, just getting them used to each other, they are both incredible line-out forwards. That's very, very exciting. Yes,
and are fucking massive.
and they are huge. They are huge. Alau's like 6'1", Tilly's like 6 foot. They are huge. Bearing in mind the current Wales second row, or like has been our current second row, has been Georgia Evans and Gwen. And Gwen is like 5'7", and Georgia is like 5'5", 5'6". So I'm very excited to actually have some height in there. They've also got Sian Jones in the backs. They've got Molly Anderson-Thomas. They've got, I'm going to butcher her last name and I do really apologise, but it's Nia Verhagen, I believe. I believe she's a Dragons player. She's been playing GB7s as well. And then the one that I thought was really interesting is that they've got Nikita Prothero, who they did spell her name incorrectly on the team sheet. She does actually only have one K in her first name. But she, former England under-20s flanker, switched to fullback. Plays for Sale Sharks, has played for Loughborough Uni. She's very, very quick. She is, I would say, probably better suited to 7s maybe than 15s, which would, that's why she's kind of that weird flanker 15 hybrid. Very, very quick, really, really strong tackler. So it would be good to see her in defence. But yeah, that's very exciting. And then the coach is Katrina Nicholas McLaughlin, who is former Wales player and current under-20s defence and forwards coach. If you want to watch, I believe both of the games this weekend are on BBC iPlayer, but the games across the entire competition are split between BBC Sport, YouTube, and then if you're in Ireland, TJ Carr as well. Big names missing: Niamh Terry, Eleanor Hings, I said, and Gwenny Hops is stuck in Bristol.
Thank you.
Evie Hill's in the has made the senior squad as well, hasn't she?
She has.
At Gwalia, yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice to see.
Yeah.
Good Nutridi, good girl.
Yeah, there's a good amount of like players who are playing in the Celtic Challenge last year and kind of got that experience. Those players that have been playing in the PWR but maybe aren't necessarily getting game time. There's a few international, mostly younger internationals, but then they're still pulling through those like under 18s players, like last year's under 18s, who, I have to be completely frank, like our under 20s and our under 18s are 10 times the players that our senior squad are, because they've been playing from younger, they've been playing in a better structure. They're just all around better players, and a lot of them are ending up at like Cardiff Met or Hartpury and are going through properly like an academy structure. So yeah, I'm really glad to see that there has been the turnover and that the players that played last year, who were kind of like legacy players but really weren't up to scratch, have actually been dropped, and we're not just constantly playing like these players that, oh well, they've got caps and like they should be playing, so we're just gonna include them in the squad, which is kind of what's happened the last like 2 or 3 years. Having said that, there is a legacy player that I don't think should be playing, but that is a different story.
So
if you have a domestic violence conviction, you should not have a professional rugby contract. And we'll leave it at that.
Well, go through that. So Gwalia seemed pretty solid last season, up until about the Irish teams.
They had a very like lopsided season where they were playing the Irish teams at the end and the easier teams at the beginning. Sorry.
So said, obviously you mentioned Britain has some struggles, mostly pack based. What is going to be a good Celtic challenge for both these teams? Is it maintaining? Is it just having an overall improved performance level, or would you like to see one of them break into that top two?
I'd like to see one of them break into the top two. Um, although I am a Brython fan, I think it potentially more likely it would be Gwalia. I think the Irish squads have been depowered a little bit. They've lost quite a few to the PWR. They've got some big injuries. So there is a chance there. The Scottish squads, honestly, I have no clue. Last year, we all thought that they were going to do incredibly well, and they were horrendous. So I'd like to see us, if we came third and fourth again, but the wins over the Scottish teams were bigger, and we challenged the Irish teams, maybe had a win against one each, I'd be happy. If we managed to get like second and fourth, I don't think second and third would happen, but then I think that would be really great. I think one of the unfortunate things that we have is that like the Gwalia defense is incredible because it's the under 20s coach, like the under 20s defensive forwards coach, and then you've got the attack and backs coach at the other club, and they don't really seem to have the rest of the resources. So like when if Brython get a win, it is like the best tries you've ever seen. It's absolutely incredible back tries, incredible handling, like the vision is sensational, but they cannot defend to save their lives. The rucking is atrocious. It's like genuine basics that they cannot get right. And then on the flip side, you've got Gwalia, who've got like one of the best goal line defenses I've ever seen in my life. And it's really difficult because it's those two coaches, and there's no sharing of resources, which is what you see more with the Irish side. So yeah, when people complain about like, I saw there was a post this week on Twitter about how, oh, why are we funding the women's game and we can't fund the men's and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's just basic structures like that. Actually, if each team had a proper attack and defense coach for the like 3 months that the competition is on, actually, we would be in a lot more with the chance. Instead, it's Ashley Beck and not even an Amazon Prime subscription. He's just got like rugby defense for dummies and kind of hoping for the best. The man does everything. He's cleaning the changing rooms, he's coaching the team, he's doing the PDC, he's doing it all.
I was going to say, because wasn't Beck also like head of performance and development for
He has
the
about
game as well?
5 different jobs at the WRU. And I'm like, how are you doing any of them well? Because you're having to do so much. It doesn't make any sense.
And just to make it clear, Hattie is saying he is doing these jobs well.
He's doing the best
handicapped with it.
Handicapped, yeah. Like if you're coaching what should be like the most elite form of like the club game in Wales for women, and your coach is essentially working part-time because he's got to do 3 other jobs in the week, and then he's got another one that he's not currently doing at the moment, but he's got it in the back of his head because he's returning to it as soon as the competition's over. And yes, there is crossover where like they're working with PDC players in the club and they're also working them outside, but then he's also got to juggle the players that aren't in his high performance pathway that are outside of it, and it's the same on both. Like Katrina Nicholas McLaughlin has the same thing, and it's
needs to be some investment in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, like 100%, because then we're not going to get the best out of the players that we should, and we've got some absolutely phenomenal players coming through.
And if we really don't want to make the mistakes of the men's game,
Or
sure we nail down this development and the underlying route beneath the national team is a must.
Yeah, especially when you consider like we've had professional contracts, big asterisks on the quality of professional contract there, but we've had them for 4 years and we've not built a proper structure underneath. Is pretty appalling. You can't just throw money at a situation and assume that it's going to get better. You do actually have to put some work in.
Yep. Hey, so we're going to put line of that. So check out the games on the iPlayers. If not on iPlayer, check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, 11:30
we'll post
and
links.
12:30
I'm sure
on Saturday.
I was going to say, I'm sure the Women's Rugby Treehouse will also be posting links of that on their accounts.
Yeah, sure.
They will, Hattie. I'm telling you, you were. If not, it'd be me on the accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. So now we're going to go back into URC. So just quick reminder, URC, you've got Cardiff in second, Ospreys in 13th, then Dragons and Scarlets in 15th and 16th. So we're just going to very quickly rattle through the previews for this one because it is getting late and I can feel myself starting to fall asleep. I don't know about anyone else. So we'll start off with, we're not going to start off with the first game of the weekend because our rules dictate derbies. We do derbies last. So we're going to start off with Munster coming to visit the Ospreys at the Brewery Field at 5:30. So Munster sent out a very strong team last weekend and only just about squeaked a win against Gloucester Kids, from what I've been told. So feeling confident?
Well, Kaelin from our Interpro pod, definitely thinks that they will rotate a bit because they got Leinster at home the following week and then they've got some further derbies over Christmas. So, Kaelin, hope you're right. And a few of the Irish internationals have a nice quiet weekend in the west of Ireland. Also, I think we'll go very strong. We've sort of mixed our teams over the last 2 weeks. So I do expect people like Dewi to feature. Harry Deves should be back, but we're going from a position of strength. And just to say, if you want to see any of the Osprey Erie people, we're all getting together in the Riverside Tavern behind the exotically named Cowshed at the Brewery Field. Please come over before or after the game and say hello. Part of the official Rap Family podcast, so we'll all be there on Saturday afternoon. Yeah, and it's a proper test for the Ospreys. I've been bigging us up a little bit, and this is a test, and I hope we respond better to the physicality that Munster will bring, more so than when we played Glasgow at home. So yeah, very much looking forward to the game.
Excellent stuff. Right, so we'll move on briefly to Dan. So Dragons hosting Connacht. Connacht having a bit of a weird start to the season with new management, and you're bouncing with confidence off a win. Do you think you can send the people back to Galway with some sad smiles?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think the fixture comes at a decent time for the Dragons in that very on a similar basis to Munster. Connacht have got the derbies to think about. However, they played Black Lion and demolished them 52-0, I think, on the weekend. So would have some scope to bring people in because the likes of Bundyaki and Finlay Bealham didn't feature. I'm unsure of how long term those sorts of injuries are for the boys at Connacht. So who knows? We may get lucky and they not bring many over. And if that's the case, then we stand a chance. As I've said repeatedly, I'm a stuck record now. A lot of it is going to depend on personnel for the Dragons. I think if we can go as full tilt as possible, then we stand a good chance. I think we're probably looking hopefully at the likes of Wyn Jones coming back in. Let's not forget Ollie Burrows and Rob Hunt effectively played the full game on the weekend, so I don't know whether either of those will be rotated. I hope not. I'd like to see both of those start unless we've got someone like Jumbo, Brodie Coughlin or Elliot Dee back, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And I'd go as fully loaded as possible. The problem position for us, I think, is definitely 13 at the moment in terms of our backline. We're really suffering in terms of line breaks. We only made one again on the weekend, whereby our attack is a bit stagnant. When Mr. Paya played in his only game, I think he made 2 or 3 line breaks on his own against the Sharks. So he offers us that point of difference. Again, I don't expect to see him this weekend, but do I want to see Di Richards in there again? I don't think Di's done anything particularly wrong, but maybe not. But yeah, at home, we're a different animal at Rodney Parade. There's no doubt about it, and I don't see why we can't back it up. But a lot of it is going to come down to personnel from both sides. Again, if Philo decides that we're going to have a little rotate again with the Welsh derbies coming up, then it's going to be a tougher affair for us. than it would be if we're as fully loaded as could be. So hopefully we have a little bit of good news in terms of recovery from the boys on the weekend, and some good injury news. We should be able to bolster our starting 15. However, maybe the flip side of that coin is, the boys that played on the weekend, if they are fit, do you reward them with another start to keep that continuity going? Who knows? So yeah, let's wait and see. But there's no reason why they can't pick up a W against or a good result at least, and improve on their performance against Connacht on the weekend.
Actually, so both those games are on Premier Sports. Now, a game that isn't on Premier Sports, which news to me, is actually going to be on BBC Two Wales.
Oh,
on Friday night. So Cardiff versus Scarlets, the standalone derby, as it is. Hattie, I'll let you have a first crack at the preview for this one.
well, if you looked at the season's current form and you had to click who you thought would win, it would be pretty obvious. However, I'm not sure. I feel like this is going to be a standard Welsh derby where neither team comes away a true winner. And that really it's going to be an absolute bun fight. Harley?
Yeah. So this is one of those ones where I feel like it almost always seems to whichever team plays better loses. Seems to have been that. Seems to be mine and Hugh's take whenever we've talked about this derby. I'd say like Scarlets has finally managed to find some form. I think Cardiff are doing quite well. I think it's going to be who handles this 6-day turnaround better, personally, and who's able to bring in more. So Van Zijl decided to bring in a few more frontliners in for the game.
Yeah, we
game against Ulster. We didn't have to travel as well, which I think might help.
But then we rested some of our top players.
Yeah, and then whereas I feel like having those extra minutes in the legs, they're ready to go. There weren't any real injuries, which I think was quite encouraging. We do have the likes of, we can bring in a Mason Grady to add that extra physicality and impact. Harry Millard for me has been just playing phenomenally well at 13. So I think Ben Thomas had another industrious game. Both, he was given 7 of the game. You might have asked, you can argue for plenty of other people last on the weekend, but he was making his tackles, he's carrying, as well as doing all his usual playmaking stuff, which showing some of the work-ons people have potentially gone for him. I think it's actually quite a good game. I'm quite looking forward to quite looking forward to this. This is one I usually enjoy a lot more than playing the other two. No offense, I just always find the game slightly more. And for us, it's for me, in the Worthy household, it is a house derby. With my wife ostensibly being a Scarlets fan.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of gutted this one isn't an actual derby, like it is, but it isn't. Do you know what I mean? It's a standalone game, and it's not part of the whole Christmas thing. But it is going to be a good game. I'm excited. I'm glad it's on a Friday night. I'm glad it's kind of the opener for the weekend. I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm just really excited to see Fletcher Anderson, and I'm excited to see him play a Welsh team. That's exciting for me. I will be really intrigued to see how, I'm assuming we'll start Costello, how he's going to interact over this Christmas derby period, over the likes of Ben Thomas, Dan Edwards, obviously not in this game, but later on. I just think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than any kind of previous stats from the rest of the season would suggest. And I'm hoping for a Scarlets win. But am I positive? No.
Prediction time now.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to say, it's with the reintroduction of the URC, it is time for Prediction League. We will always find time for Prediction League. I'm gonna do this slightly differently. So I'm gonna start off with my predictions. I've actually remembered to put these in even before the podcast started. Which it definitely wasn't 5 minutes before. So I've gone for the derby. I'm going for, unsurprisingly, I've gone for Cardiff to win. I reckon we're going to win by 5. So I think, but I've got a weird feeling it might be one of those you score, we score.
That's what I think it's
You
going to
score
be.
again, we score even more type things. Ospreys Munster, I've gone for a narrow Ospreys win 2 points, and then I know you're confident, Dan, but I just see Connacht going for it, getting like a smash and grab, but winning by 3 away. So,
Thanks.
as the other person involved in the derby, Hattie, I'll let you go next.
I'm going to say Scarlets by 3. I'm going to say Munster by 8.
Oh, wow.
And am I allowed to predict a draw?
Yeah,
sure.
Sure, but you get no points if it's anything but a draw. You get 8 points for a draw if it's a draw, but you get nothing in the prediction league if it isn't.
You've said
because I don't like hedging.
I'm going to say Dragons Connacht draw. Just because I feel like that's the Dragon season.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
They have been doing. They have had a couple. I mean, that's why Alex Cuthbert was so surprised that they were actually winning, not drawing. Go on to Nick.
Well, first, start with Cardiff Scarlets. It normally goes with the away team, so don't let me down. And we didn't compare notes, I promise you. I'm going Cardiff by 5. I'm going
Cardiff are the home team,
Yeah.
Yes, I know, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. I'm going against what normally happens, isn't it? Don't you normally win in Parc y Scarlets? The Scarlets normally win in Cardiff.
Depends on the year sometimes.
Okay, well, I'm going for Cardiff win by 5 points. I'm going by exactly the same margin. Ospreys to win by 2 points. And I'm sorry, Dan, I think you're going to try and play too much rugby, and Connacht will catch you out in the break a couple of times. I'm going Connacht by 5.
Thanks,
it's
Nick.
weird that you're doing this just to make sure I can't catch you up in the prediction league.
I
think this is rank gamesmanship.
I have a post-it note here to prove it.
And last but by no means least, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cardiff by 8. I think Cardiff just edge it. I can see it being a good game, but Cardiff to edge it. Ospreys by 6. And normally I say the Dragons are going to win, and we don't. Last week I said the Dragons were going to lose, I believe. Someone could fact check me on that. And they won. So, look, there's a lot of it. Why not? Dragons by 4.
I do love you. The whole. I'm not going to predict the Dragons. Oh no, I'm going to definitely predict Dragons.
Dragons by 4. Why not?
It's all gone to his head.
We all want it, Dan. Dan, we all want it.
Well, those are our predictions. That is our thing. So the only thing I want to say left over is our plans over Christmas. So we will be back next week for last thing, and then we're going to take a break over the Christmas until the WRU announce that they are selling off Carmarthen to pay off the last of the stadium, or Blaenau Gwent is now going to be the new central team.
We're all moving to Wrexham.
Nothing wrong with Wrexham. Don't start. We've had this already about Newport.
We just mean it's going to be some news on some. If there's some news of seismic nature, we will come. We will come back to the microphones and have a chat about it. But until next week, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Dan, for joining me. Nosta.
Nosta.
Have a good.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.